Welcome to Rider Nation Station, presented by American Manufacturing Solutions, your total logistics partner, investing in Rider Nation Station and St. Mary's, Ohio, and to our other fine sponsors.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the Doug Frye Show for 2020. I'm Joe Hurlbert, your host, and joining me each and every week throughout the course of this season will be head coach Doug Frye, who is sitting socially distancing from me at his 6 feet. It seems like we've got to honor that. But nonetheless, Coach, last year, a good season, 9-3, and your comments last year.
Well, first of all, Joe, I don't have my glasses on. I think that's you over there somewhere. But and we measured, I think it's 6.5 to 7 feet.
We're good.
Apart right here, we're making sure we follow those protocols. But it's good to be back. As we started back on May 26th, we had no clue where the end point was going to be on this, and nor do we at this point, because things tend to change every day, and we want to make sure we err on the side of caution and safety for our young men and coaches that are involved. So, during that period of time while the kids were away, there was a lot of doubt and if we were going to make it back. And I give our leaders and our kids and our assistant coaches a lot of credit. They've done a good job keeping our kids heading the right direction. And we were so anxious to get that first scrimmage in, just excited to be back. Coming off a 9-3 season, we're losing a very talented senior group of kids, a group that was undefeated as freshmen. They had success throughout the program, so they're not going to be easy to replace. Right. And I thought from the scrimmage standpoint for both Marion Local and ourselves, it was a quality opponent for both of us. So with only a half of a scrimmage before the opening game, that's a good thing. But, yeah, it was a good year. We lost 2 tight games, played 2 rounds deep into the playoffs. Of course, it broke the string of 3 straight, at least part of WBL championships. And so, we continue to move on. And already, golly, time flies. We got back here in 2014. So what's that make it the 7th year back now that the group's been together?
I would have to say that in all your years of coaching, this probably coming into 2020 has got to be, with all the COVID issues, has got to be probably one of the most challenging ones for you.
Well, it definitely is, other than the fence builders that are driving by the locker room right now. That might be a challenge too, but as a coach, I guess it tests your perseverance and your focus a little bit, and having done this as long as I have, there's a lot of different things that pop up through the period of time. So, it actually, if I could say anything positive from it, it's forced you as a coach, and I'm sure this is the case everywhere, to just be very detail-oriented and look at the little things that have happened. And certainly been a different situation, that's for sure.
We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the changes and some of the adjustments that the student athletes and the coaches did as they prepare for the 2020 season. We'll do that and more as the Doug Frye Show continues on Rider Nation Station right after this.
St. Mary's Foundry is a global leader in manufacturing complex iron castings. Our skilled workforce takes pride in producing the highest quality iron castings, weighing up to 60,000 pounds. St. Mary's Foundry wants to take this opportunity to give a big shout out to all our local teams, wishing them a safe and extraordinary season. And speaking of great teams, St. Mary's Foundry would like to thank its very own team of hardworking employees for their loyalty and dedication. If you're looking for rewarding challenges and first-string wages and benefits, check us out at stmfoundry.com or on hometownopportunities.com. St. Mary's Foundry, where iron and ingenuity meet.
Welcome back to the Doug Frye Show. Joe Hurlbert along with head coach Doug Frye. And Coach, let's talk a little bit about some of the changes in protocol that had to take place this year. It seemed like every day something from the OHSAA was changing. You could scrimmage, then all of a sudden now we're eliminating 3 scrimmages. Now all of a sudden we do inter-squad scrimmages. Now we can do 1 scrimmages. It's got to be a roller coaster, not only for the coaching staff, but how to convey that to your student athletes.
Well, and in defense of all that too, from the governor down, there's just so much uncertainty about where this COVID-19 is going and what to do best to fight it. And as we sit here in our visitors' locker room, if somebody's wondering where we're at right now, this is a locker room behind me that houses our freshmen, our 8th grade and our 7th grade team. So this particular locker room is going to take in over 100 people are going to come in and out of this particular locker room at different times. So, obviously we didn't even start using these locker rooms till about 3 weeks ago. We haven't been back into our weight room inside since the shutdown started in March. What we did was we moved all of our weight equipment out here, and we lift outside now is what we do. We move it in and out of a storage area out here. And it actually has been a good thing overall because our other teams have had more access to the weight room and the ability to not maybe mesh together and spread the COVID as much. So that's been a positive in that regard. But there's a lot more time on our plate for sanitizing, being here earlier. How do you handle water bottles? How do you handle masks on the field? How do you handle an away game? How do you handle logistics? So, I've redone schedules a lot more than I've ever had in the past and tried to stay a couple steps ahead, even though that's difficult at times.
I think one of the big changes that we're going to see this year in the 2020 season is the schedule change. There will be no Western Buckeye League champion crowned. 6 games will be played, and then from that point on, everybody that opts in can be in the football playoffs. What's your philosophy on that?
Well, as good as we could make it at this point. We're playing. That's a positive. There's obviously people out there going to argue back and forth. They could have done it this way, that way, but we had to do it some way, and we didn't have much time to decide to do that. So I think this is probably the best way to do it. And some schedules obviously ended up being tougher than others as we went through things. But, we kept a rival at the end in Salina, which wouldn't have been on a normal 6-game schedule, Joe. And then our beginning of our schedule is extremely tough. So that's tough. And then, the uniqueness of this is when you hit Game 7 in the playoffs, there's teams that they might be 1-0 when they enter the tournament, or they might be 0-2 or 1-1. They may not. I use Trotwood Madison as example. They're at this point not playing a regular season right now, but they could enter back in, play a couple games, and then be in the tournament. So it does, from that standpoint, give each team a choice of coming back into the tournament.
I think from a athletic director standpoint and a scheduling perspective, it's got to be a nightmare, especially after the possibility of you playing 6 games and then you opt out, and you can still play 3 more games, but then you got to try to find teams to play, and who do you play, where do you travel to, and how that all transfers.
Well, the advantage of being in a conference of 10 teams is that was a little easier for us.
Right.
The nightmare was, in addition to everything we're doing with practice and COVID, we had lost our opening game with Sydney. We've been searching. We finally found Thurgood Marshall after about a year of looking. And then about 6 weeks ago or so, Dayton City decided not to play, so we lost Thurgood. I could not find another opener. And at 1 o'clock, and the days kind of meshed together, but at 1 o'clock on a particular day a few weeks ago, Chaminade Julienne out of Dayton, the Catholic school, was scheduled to come here. At 1 o'clock, we sealed the deal. At 5 o'clock, the announcement came out that we weren't going to play a full schedule, and Chaminade dropped us then, and we went back to league play. So, and that took, and if anyone's been close to education, understand scheduling, you just don't call someone and set a schedule up. It's 10 emails, it's 8 or 10 calls, it's back and forth till you try and figure out the logistics of it. So we mixed that in, and but like I said, with a 10-team league, once we decided to play our league schools, that became pretty well set. Not only for, you're just thinking about the varsity, but for our JV teams,
for our 9th grade team, for an 8th grade team, for a 7th grade team. So, all the logistics of that have to be figured out, and having a league like we have in the Western Buckeye League was an advantage.
Excellent. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to take a look at this year's 2020 Rough Rider football team when we come back on the Doug Frye Show right after this.
For all your sporting good needs, visit Albert Sporting Goods at 121 West Spring Street, serving the St. Mary's community since 1980.
Auglaze Equipment Rental is your source for all your equipment needs. Whether you're a contractor or a homeowner with a project, we can help get the job done more efficiently. Check us out at 1900 Salina Road or auglazeequipmentrental.com, or just call 419-394-7883. Auglaze Equipment Rental.
Coach, you talked about it earlier. You lost some key seniors, skilled positions last year from a very talented senior group of kids. How does 2020 look?
Well, I think we do a good job as coaches of projecting where we think kids will fit for us and getting our kids as much JV and freshman time as we can, and trying to get some kids maybe not main playing time, but get them on the field. So in year 7, I believe you're starting to see the attributes of a program. As you look back at the greatness of our program prior to my time here with Coach Bachman and his staff, and a lot of people talk about the continuity of Coach Bachman's coaching staff in the building of a program all the way down through. I really believe in the last year or two our program has completely come together. Mm-hmm. So we're going to test that now, from now on out, how kids fit in and how they inherit those positions and develop. On offense, we return Brian Ward at left tackle. Brian's a 3-year starter for us, so he's a guy to build around. Devin Shannon, when we had the injuries last year to a couple of our linemen, Devin stepped in and started on the interior line at tackle. We've moved him out to tight end. Stosh Patterson returns at guard. So there are 3 guys up front on the O-line. On the D-line, the 2 D tackles, and Trace Mabry and Hunter Foltz returned. So as you look at the trenches, which is always where I start as a coach, there's some key guys in those trenches right there. Obviously, last year we played 4 quarterbacks, so 2 of those 4 are returning to us this year and that have some time with us, so that's a good thing. And we played a multitude of fullbacks, and there's 3 fullbacks that are coming back in there as you look in there. Halfbacks, again, we played a number of kids, even though some of the kids, and Ethan Wedding and Dylan Troglin, weren't full-time starters. Mm-hmm. They played a lot of football for us, and Henkel and Henshin and Fraley returned at the fullback. Defensively, Brandon Paul returns at the linebacker. Tanner Howe, who's been up with us for 3 years now, we've moved up from safety to backer, and we're breaking in some newbies over on that side.
Well, it looks like everything's starting to fall into place. One of the things that took place last year, and unfortunately it happened, Ty Slossler got hurt, but that opened up an opportunity for a lot of young people to get an opportunity to play. Aiden Hinkle, I want to say it was at the Bath game last year that he broke out, and we kind of wondered, where did this kid come from? And so he's kind of just coming into his own. He did not dress against the Marion Local Flyers in your scrimmage, but nonetheless, I think, you got a lot of key people in key positions. Gavin Reinecke started last year at quarterback until Kurt Butt was able to return. But experience, and that's a key all the way down the line, even into your younger programs. It's just playing.
Absolutely. And it's always the most disappointing thing as a coach when a senior comes up with an injury, and of course that's part of sports, and it's unfortunate. We lost Jace Norton and Ty Slosser last year, both great kids and from great families, and so that was disappointing, which forced us to play some other kids. Aiden had a breakout game against Shawnee. It actually was.
That what it was, Shawnee?
The first one right there. Mm-hmm. And he had a breakout game there, and so that we do have some depth. And as a coach, when you look at the current situation that we're dealing with the COVID-19 and not knowing what the future will hold, one thing we kept even a better eye on this year was building depth in all the positions, because you just never know what's going to happen.
Exactly. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll have more on the Doug Frye Show when we come back right after this.
Vogel's Bake Shop, making thousands of fresh donuts daily, open 7 days a week with stores in St. Mary's, Salina, and Walpock. Also now found in Wagner's IGA in New Bremen, Minster, and Fort Laramie.
Coach, again, last Friday night you had an opportunity to play one of the premier programs as far as high school football in the state, the Marion Local Flyers, always a state perennial power. First half, pretty much game situation, and ended in a 7-7 tie. But overall, what were your thoughts against the Flyers?
Well, first of all, a very quality opponent, well-coached team, great kids, and you really want to have that, especially if you're limited into one scrimmage. So you know where you're at a little bit more in some certain areas. Thought we made a lot of mistakes, some maybe atypical mistakes for us. With putting the ball on the ground, we want to get that cleaned up, and then giving up the long pass right before the halftime, and so those things we need work on. Some of our new linemen, it was good to be able to evaluate them a little bit and evaluate them against a quality opponent. So good and bad. I think we have a long way to go yet, and we better go quickly because the early season schedule's tough. So.
Well, what are some of the changes that you tell your players? One of the things that we noticed from the scrimmage, if you happen to catch the scrimmage, that the officials do not touch the football. Mm-hmm. They mark the spot of the ball with an orange beanbag, and your center runs out with the football, and that's probably to eliminate the handing of the football and things of that nature. Are there any other things that you tell your players? I mean, do they social distance on the sideline, or how do they do in that?
Well, there's a lot of logistics that have changed, that's for sure. It's in a way, probably the weirdest one as a longtime football coach was the center spotting the ball. I mean, that's still something I'm still trying to get used to as a coach, even though for 2 or 3 weeks we have been doing that, and talked to Mark Sisko, local official, and he told us about the changes that were going to take place with that. And we've been in practice, that's our way of doing things. We bring it back to the center now, and usually I have an injured player that's spotting the ball in practice, so we've been doing that for a while now, so we're used to it. We had 3 young men that were injured or extras on the sideline that were chasing down the balls on the sideline. Of course, we don't throw the ball that much, but I guess if you're Kenton and that thing goes way out onto the practice field somewhere, right, It's a long run to go get that ball and get it back to the huddle. But so that was different. Social distancing is probably the most difficult thing, I think, with kids. They've extended the player box down to the 10-yard line. We talk about it every day in practice. We to the point that we're hoarse, we reiterate that, because kids' nature in general is to, and it's almost the opposite of what you tried to accomplish as a coach in the past, because you're always trying to build teamwork, camaraderie, right, unity. Now you want to keep them apart as much as you can. So on the sidelines, they're apart. Our football parents have been fantastic, and the support of that group has been great. Kendra Sewer leading the group up. Each of our kids have a Gator mask that they can pull up when their helmet comes off. Each of our kids have a water bottle that's been bought by the football parents with their number and name on it. On Thursday night, we practiced the spot where they're going to stand on Friday night. Of course, that'll change a little bit on away games. So a lot of this stuff has to be practiced on a regular basis. We use the locker room, even though we only started using it just recently. And we're in and out of the locker room in a quick basis. We try to make sure that when we come into the locker room, it's staggered when we come in. We keep air moving. We keep the fans on in the building. We're probably setting a world record on sanitizer being sprayed in a certain area. The kids have to have their mask on, and the difficult thing for me on the field is trying to figure out how to blow my whistle all the time with the mask on. So I usually go through about 2 or 3 mask practices. I'm changing them, and the electronic whistles are kind of on back order right now, but. Yeah, we're doing everything we can to be the best at that we can do. We change our groups frequently. We don't stay in one area very long, so we're moving at all times.
Let me ask you a question. Going back to the center, bringing the ball to the line of scrimmage, and I thought about this on Friday against Marion Local. is that an advantage to the offense if they were in a hurry-up type of offense, or does the official still stand over the bag and still move away from it to start the offense?
I'm still trying to evaluate that. It seems like things are moving just a little slower right now than so I would think if I had to make an initial analysis of that, it would be a little bit more of an advantage for the defense because they could get their calls in, and those hurry-up offenses are slowed just a little bit. Now, I'm sure as players and officials and everybody becomes more used to this, it'll get back to more game speed at this point. Right. But at this point, it seemed just a tad slower to me.
Does it? Well, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to take a look at this week's opponents, the Bath Wildcats, when we come back right after this.
Guarneri's on Spring Street, home of the signature Big Ralph Sub, Pizza, and Calzone. Come try our thirst-quenching Rider-Aid before, during, and after the game. Post-game live music every Friday night. It's Guarneri's. Give them a call, 419-394-2244.
Welcome back to the Doug Frye Show. Joe Hurlbert along with head coach Doug Frye on Rider Nation Station. Glad to have you along. Coach, the Rough Riders start the 2020 season. We're on the road at Bath. How are we preparing for Bath?
Well, we're preparing as we normally do. Bath is a very talented football team. We didn't, as the schedule makers put everything together, we certainly got a lot tougher beginning than we would have even anticipated. Bath returns 18 starters from a year ago. They returned 10 starters on defense, 9 on offense. They had a strong finish with the first-year head coach last year, so they're big. They're physical kids. They're loaded with talent. They started sophomores and juniors last year, so it's a tough matchup for us. It's a road game for the first time for us because generally in the scrimmages you try to mix and match or away and home contests. So it's not going to certainly be any easy opener. It's going to be a challenge for us on the road. And then, of course, we come back with Wapakoneta and OG the next 2 weeks after that. So as you split this season in half, and I told the kids we're already on a normal season. We're on game 5 of the season right now. So this thing's going to go by in the click of your fingers, and it's going to be playoff time. So, it's exciting to be playing, but it's going to be a challenge.
Well, of course, you got to follow the protocol as well, not only at home, but you have to do it on the road as well. So it'll be interesting. And again, going into that environment, and the kids are just have to, they have to adjust. And I think that you got to give a lot of credit to our young kids because this isn't normal. This is not normal. In a normal football season, this is not normal. So everything that they're doing is an adjustment for them. Not only do they have to adjust with the things with the COVID issues, but then they got to go out and perform.
Absolutely. And a lot of times I think this is a natural thing of aging. You look back and say, well, we did it this way, or I'd like this generation to do it that way. And I can remember my parents, my grandparents saying the same thing, but I just cannot really imagine going through what these young men are going through as when I look back to my days in high school and to be challenged in this way. It's the uncertainty, the adjustments, the things that have had to go on, and it really is a testament. I look across the board, and of course, our numbers have been good here in football through the years, and they've stayed very good. But in other places, the numbers in football have actually increased. I think kids were just anxious to get back, and our natural personalities as human beings is to get out, exercise, be part of something, be around people. So they were anxious to get back and get involved again.
Absolutely. Well, that's going to do it for this edition of the Doug Frye Show. I want to thank head coach Doug Frye for joining us. He'll be joining us each and every week for the Doug Frye Show here on Rider Nation Station. And, Coach, we wish you the best of luck on the road this week against the Bath Wildcats.
It's good to be back. Thanks, Joe.
For Doug Frye, I'm Joe Hurlbert. Thanks again for watching. We'll have it for you live Friday night from Bath Wildcats Stadium, the St. Mary's Rough Riders and the Bath Wildcats. We'll see you then. So long, everyone.
Thanks for watching another episode of Rider Nation Station. Help us help you by subscribing on YouTube or following us on Facebook.